Well, good morning to our families across the 38th Spot community. Welcome to KCPS Homeroom, where today we're talking to local superintendents. This is a wonderful treat for you as we have several superintendents in the same room talking about their feelings and thoughts as we've approached this school year, as we started this school year. And we're so excited to have their personalities and their professional takes on how we're going about this school year. So we're going to get started and have a conversation with them about their school districts, about their families, their teachers, their students. And I first want to introduce our esteemed Dr. Mark Bedell, Superintendent of Kansas City Public Schools, to say a few words and then help introduce his colleagues. Dr. Bedell, you're on.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you for this production today with our KCPS Homeroom. And I also want to thank our superintendents from the area, many of these peers that I have a great deal of respect for. As you all know, I am the superintendent of the Kansas City Public School District. I've served here. I'm in my 5th year of tenure at this point. But what I wanted to do was to have an opportunity to allow for our viewers to listen to what happens in terms of conversations that superintendents are having as we are all trying to navigate this uncharted territory. And so I have 4 additional peers that are on today that represent various districts in the region. And I'm just excited to have them here as thought partners. And so, Kelly, what I want to do at this point is give each of the superintendents an opportunity to introduce themselves, and then we will be ready for you to shoot questions to us so we can get on with the show.
Sounds great. So, Dr. Coward, Park Hill School District, tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, first, thanks for the invitation, Dr. Bedell. This is wonderful, and we love being partners with you and then the colleagues on the show that you're going to be here just a little bit too. I am Dr. Jeanette Coward. I'm the superintendent for the Park Hill School District, starting my 6th year as superintendent and my 16th year in the Park Hill School District. And we are very excited to share what has happened today. This was our first day of school today with a K through 5, everybody in person, and a 6 through 12 hybrid. So I look forward to this conversation. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Paul Kinder, and I want to thank Dr. Bedell and his staff for allowing us to do this today. I think it's a great concept. I've always shied away a little bit from media myself, but I'm glad to be here with you this morning as we discuss some really important issues here around the Kansas City metro area. I've been superintendent in Blue Springs since 1999. I've been a superintendent since 1992, and I've been in public education for 44 years. Yes, I did say 44 years. And I've enjoyed every minute of it, and this is definitely a different program we're in right now. The different circumstances we're under right now is definitely different than anything I've ever seen in my 44 years.
Dr. Cargile.
Good morning, Yolanda Cargile, and this is my first year as superintendent in the Spencer School District. I have served as a superintendent in a neighboring district, but this is my 20 plus years in education, and it's a pleasure to join the conversation today. Excited to be able to engage with my colleagues and dialogue around various topics around reopening schools for our scholars.
Thank you for joining us. Dr. Rodriguez.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Kenny Rodriguez. I'm the superintendent of schools in the Grandview C4 School District. This is beginning my 5th year as superintendent, along the same as Dr. Bedell. It's my 7th year in the school district, and any number of just positive things that are going on. But as everybody has said, we are all dealing with things that we're not always prepared for, but we've done a great job of navigating things, and we're going to move forward and be able to have these conversations together. So I'm excited to be part of this and appreciate the invite as well.
Joining us. Dr. Bedell, thank you for those quick introductions of your colleagues. And one of the things that Dr. Bedell and I visit about a lot is, as superintendents, sometimes your true personalities don't get to come out. We're professional, we present professionally, but behind the scenes, this has been kind of tough personally and professionally to approach this year in a different way in some ways. So the first question that we have for you is, how are you doing personally and professionally? How are you personally with your mindset and mentality in approaching this school year? And Dr. Bedell, you might want to lead off with that question.
That's a very interesting question. Before I answer that question, I have to say this about Paul. 44 years, that's nearly my lifetime. And so I tell everybody I do lean on Paul a lot. He has a tremendous amount of experience doing this for the amount of time that he's done it. And we kind of look at him almost as the godfather in this area of superintendents. So, like I said, to have him participate in this, and I know how busy he and all of my other colleagues are, but him being a veteran like that for 44 years of experience, I think there's a lot that we all will be able to continue to learn from him. So I wanted to make sure I made mention of that. And honestly, what works for me is having the ability to communicate with these folks. I have a personal relationship with all four of them. I can call them and say, hey, I'm going through this. I'm stressed right now. And with this pandemic, it has put all of us in a position where we don't necessarily feel that we have complete control of our fate. And that's where we most certainly have to depend on each other to help us through some of the tough times, because just the fear of the unknown can impact all of us. We're all human, just like everybody else. And I know that when people see us as superintendents, they do tend to view us as superheroes. But the truth is, we're human like everybody else. We have concerns and issues. We stress just like everybody else. And so for me, it's important that I'm able to talk frequently to these other superintendents and to lean on them and to ask them, what are some of the best practices you all are utilizing on your campuses? And I will have no problem stealing information. We just call it sharing in most cases. And I will reciprocate that. Anything that I have, it's theirs. But anything that we can do to help ease the anxiety that we're all going through, I think allows for us to be able to get through this national health pandemic in a more seamless manner.
Well, I'll second the Godfather comment there, and that's what I'm going to start calling Dr. Kinder from here on out. But we do rely on each other. So I think personally, for me, number one, yeah, we get stressed like everybody else. I mean, the whole point is to have outward confidence with our families and to be open, and sometimes tell them that we don't have all the answers. Personally, I rely on my family a lot. Go running in the mornings to relieve stress sometimes, but relying on my family to know that I have that support group whenever I come home, and knowing that sometimes there's been some challenging days over the course of the last few months. My son is actually in my school district, so I'm also a parent and having challenges and any number of different things on that front as well. So it's an interesting dynamic to go through both of those pieces. But professionally, for sure, I guess like Dr. Bedell said, I rely on any number of groups and superintendents in the area, certainly Dr. Kinder being one of those as well. But, Dr. Bedell and I speak frequently, and I speak with any number of different superintendents in the area because we do rely on each other and share information, and we get different pieces of that from each other in order to make sure that whatever we're doing is the best possible for our families. And sometimes we don't get it right, and that's okay. We're going to make mistakes just like everybody does. I think for the most part, our families just want to hear from us and want us to communicate that, hey, we missed the mark on this one, but we're going to do better, and here's what we're going to do to fix it. And so I try to communicate regularly with our families and know that, hey, we're struggling with those pieces too. It's going to be okay.
For sharing. Dr. Cargyle, did you want to pitch into that?
Absolutely. I won't call Dr. Kinder the Godfather, but I have told him that I want to be like him when I grow up. So he has definitely been a resource for me as a superintendent here in the area. This would now be my 4th year superintendent, first year here in Center School District. But just like all of my other colleagues have shared, we rely on one another, and having the ability to be able to call, text, email whenever there's a question or a need, knowing that you have a network of individuals to connect with really helps as we plan and respond to this pandemic that we haven't, we couldn't plan for. There was no schooling for that. And so I know based on my relationships with each and every one of the individuals on Today is that we are absolutely doing what we feel is best for children and staff to keep all safe. And so I can say that without a shadow of a doubt, knowing that all of my colleagues are doing the same thing to make sure that we're creating healthy and safe environments for all included.
Dr. Coward, your thoughts?
Yeah, I would echo all of those things around just taking care of one another and reaching out and talking to just my other colleagues. I've known all of them for quite some time now, and we're in different groups. I would say I meet almost weekly with our Northland superintendent groups, and then we have a Greater Kansas City group that meets also. But you really touched on an important piece here, because we talk about social emotional learning so much with our staff and with our students, and sometimes we're probably not very good at it. I know I'm not very good at it. It's very challenging to take that time for some self-care and to do that. And I think maybe that's probably the thing in this pandemic I'm learning more than anything else, is that unless I do those things, then I can't be my very best when I come to work and work with my colleagues. I think the other piece that's just critically important to all of us are just the people we work with every day. There's so many people that, the term unsung heroes, whatever term you want to use, but I think about my directors, I think about my principals, my assistant superintendents, my assistant principals, all the people within our organization that have worked since March, frankly, in order to make us as successful as we possibly can be and to meet the needs of our families, has been just incredible to watch. And so I'm just grateful for their work and for what they do, because that takes some of the stress off me, because I know that they care just as much as I do. And they want the very best for our students too. So I think that self-care piece, though, it's a little tough for us as superintendents every once in a while, because I think Dr. Bedell said, we're kind of trying to become superheroes and always have the answer. And as Dr. Rodriguez said, we just don't always have the answer. We're trying really, really hard, and we all really want to do the very best for our families. So, but it's been an interesting time, very much so. But it's also provided some time for reflection too.
Yes, indeed, indeed. Dr. Kinder, how about you personally and professionally? How are you doing, and what would you like to share?
Well, first of all, I do feel honored that they've referred to me as the Godfather. They've called me other things at various times this year, so the Godfather is a good comment from them. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Echo what everybody else has said. Never in my career has it been more important to have colleagues than this year's been. I mean, it seems like the last 5 months have gone on for 2 years. It's just amazing, and the stress level can be overwhelming at times. And if we don't have that interaction with our colleagues, it makes it very, very difficult. We had our first day of school today, and we have an on-site option and a virtual option, K-12, and I was able to go out and get a hug from a first grader at one of our elementaries today, who happens to be my granddaughter, and a hug from a kindergartner at one of our other elementaries. That was one of my grandsons, and that's what makes it worth it for me. And it really uplifted me today, just being able to get that hug from those two. I see them often anyway, but to see them in that school setting and for them to recognize me and not be embarrassed by who I am, to come up and want to embrace who I was really uplifting for me today.
Yes, that human connection piece, Dr. Kinder, we're so craving and wanting that human connection piece, and I'm glad you had it with your grandkids today. What a great special sentiment and feeling for you today. As we talk about personal and professional feelings as we approach this school year, one of the things that we're interested in as leaders is your mindset, your mentality. As leaders of school districts, how are you coaching your teams? How are you leading your teams? What's your mantra this year as you lead a school district during this pandemic?
Kelly, I'll start with that one, because ours has been pretty clear. We want to be better for this. When we finish this pandemic, and it's nothing that any of us wanted, but I hope that we're better. I hope we're better with technology. I hope we're better with building relationships. I hope we've learned some things with how we bring our kindergartners in that we'll do in the future. We brought our teachers in longer this time, and it really seemed to help. So mine is, although it's a crisis and a difficult situation, what can we learn that will make us better and will make us better for our families and our students in the future? And actually, even talking to one of my teachers today, I said, well, what are you learning? What's working for you? And she says, actually, all those programs we used to talk about on technology that I should have known already, I know how to do them now. And so it's better. And then we're learning how to meet the needs of our students too, whether it's our youngest learners, our K-1-2s, of how we deal with them and how we assist them with technology, but also how we communicate with our families. So my only hope is, as we continue to have these conversations, let's be better for it. Let's be better when we get to the end than when we started.
Better for it. Hashtag better for it. I like that one. Good mantra.
Yeah, I think I would say grace. I had a conversation with our leaders not too long ago, making sure that they understood that everybody is at capacity. Like, we're all working as hard as we possibly can. And so we not only need to give grace to our families and to students and those things, but we need to continue to give grace to each other, because sometimes we're wanting something from one department and they just don't have anything left to give, that they're trying the absolute best that they possibly can. So we're going to keep, giving grace in all particular areas and make sure that we do the absolute best that we can. But we need to have that grace to understand that sometimes the best is just not going to be enough, and we're going to be okay. We will be better. So like Dr. Coward said, we knew that we needed to be better than we were in the spring. And so that's what we talked about all summer, was that we were going to be better. Doesn't mean that we're going to be perfect. Doesn't mean there's not going to be mistakes, but that we are going to be better and we're learning from those things. And so how do we make sure that on the backside of all this, as she said, that we are better because of it, and that we can provide a better level of service and a better level of education for all of our families?
I can respond. So for me, 3 things come to mind. The first being collaboration. And so that's one characteristic that I've promoted among a team that I'm joining new. And so really working with my team to make sure that we're working together. And then another has been people are priority, making sure that all of our stakeholders feel that they have the information that they need, and coupled with that is being clear is kind. And so really focusing in on communicating expectations and sharing protocols and processes with all of our stakeholders throughout this, as we responded to the pandemic, making sure that we have a website, we're sending out frequent information, just trying it all ways possible to make sure that we're communicating. And like everyone else has said, asking for grace. And as we come out on the other side of this, one of our hashtags has been CSD Strong 2020. And so that we must collaborate together. And in the end, we'll be able to identify our most learned ideas and how we can improve services to the students and families that we get the honor to serve.
It's changed a little bit this year, I'll be honest with you. I mean, in the past, we've always been encouraging and want to try to train our young and upcoming administrators, but it's never been more important. It has been this year. I tell our staff all the time, especially our leadership group, there are no right answers. There's some wrong answers, but there are no right answers because the questions change almost on a daily basis. And so when the questions change, then the answers have to change. And so we're trying to use what everybody else has said, talk about grace. But one of the big keys things we've talked about all year long since we started in this back in March was flexibility, not just with our leadership team, but with our staff as a whole. I was out today helping serve some lunches with some of our curbside pickups we have for some of our virtual parents and virtual students. And just talking to some of our staff, their custodial staff, food service staff, again, about the term flexibility, because it is going to change all year long. I mean, we don't expect to be on site all year long. We really don't. We don't expect to be all virtual all year long. We think there's going to be combinations of different hybrids, different plans as we go through this. And if we can't be flexible and show some grace, and also at the same time tell people, hey, everybody's going to make a mistake. We make mistakes, we learn from them, we move ahead. But this year, this has been more important than anything else as we've gone through this process, because in some respects, we're not showing a lot of grace ourselves from our community, from other people. But in turn, we need to, I think, be as graceful as we can, and at the same time be prepared to pivot at any moment, because this is going to change. And this being my last year, because I am retiring again in June, and trying to train my people to be ready. I said, this isn't just a 12-month or an 18-month process. I'm afraid COVID's going to be with us for a while. And until there is a reliable vaccine that people are going to take, then I think this is going to be something that's going to be ongoing for years ahead. And it's like one thing we've talked about, we think virtual education is here to stay. I think virtual education will be an option in all our districts from here on out. And that's something that a lot of people are going to applaud and other people are not going to like. But I think we're to that point right now.
Wow, that's well stated from each and every single one of you. And what we are looking at is our theme this year is no matter what. And so what that means is that no matter what comes in front of us, we have a responsibility to do everything in our power to meet the needs of our students socially, emotionally, and academically. And one of the things that I learned today as I went to visit schools, because this was our first day just as it was for everybody else, was that a number of our teachers have taken that mentality. We had a teacher today at one of our schools during her lunch break. One of her students wasn't able to connect, and she went to the child's house and in the driveway worked with that family to get that kid connected so that they could log in to class in the afternoon. And that's that mentality that we want to have here. I've been very vocal with our elected leaders about the lack of coordination. And I've been very clear that as superintendents, we want to have an opportunity to be in the room with our mayor and our county exec and all of our health officials so we can all come together and be on one accord. And I know that that's in the works, but we also know that as superintendents, we have had to take that no matter what mentality, and we've all had to make decisions based on what the data dictates that we should be doing. So one of the things you heard here today with my peers is everybody's kind of taking a different model. Some of us are 100% in a distant learning or virtual platform. Some of us are in a hybrid model where some of our kids are coming to school, and then there are other kids that are on a virtual platform or a distant learning platform. So every single one of us, we're making a lot of these decisions. And that's why I love that word grace, because we are asking that we are able to allow for us to have grace with each other as we work through this. I don't think that you can sit here and try to point at one district and say, well, why are they doing this, but why isn't this district doing that? Because the data points are different across the different geographical areas that we serve. So we have to make decisions that we believe are in the best interest of the students and the community that we serve. And so as superintendents, even when we make our decisions on what we want to do, we have all come together to say, hey, just giving you a heads up, here's what I'm thinking about doing. How does this impact you? And we have all talked about those things, and we've all taken this no matter what mentality that we have to make the best decisions that will best serve our respective communities. And so I think this airing of the superintendents coming together to talk is important, because sometimes, people try to play districts against districts, but this here once again shows everybody that we are in constant communication with each other, and every single superintendent is making the best decision based on data that they have to serve their communities.
Yes. And so as we think about decision-making processes and how we've all come to the decisions where we are and how we're doing school this year, we're getting a lot of feedback, right? We get feedback from our teachers, from our students, from our families. It's good. We use the feedback to make adjustments, to modify, and to move in better ways that serve our districts better. So what are your parents saying to you? What are your students saying to you? What are your teachers saying to you? Some of you have hinted at that being in schools today and being out and about, listening to teachers and students. But what is your community saying to you right now? What kind of feedback are you getting right now?
I'll start off with this one. I think the feedback's been positive for the most part. We have seen from time to time where people may be upset that the school district made a decision to go 100% virtual. My plan was to ultimately start the school year out on a hybrid model until we saw what the transmission rates of the virus were in this community. And so as we updated our board during the public board meetings, we provided all of that data. We gave a rationale to everybody as to why the district has made the decision that it's made as far as opening up. And then we also shared the plan that was created with about 350 people across our system coming together to put together this cohesive plan that is very easy for us to follow. So honestly, a lot of the data that we did receive was based on some of the data from the health departments, the data that we've been getting at the state level, and then the conversations that we all have been having amongst superintendents around this is what we're looking to do based on what the data is dictating. So that's pretty much the way that we have kind of operated and made the decisions that we made to where we are at this point, starting off 100% virtual. We are allowing for athletics to take place. We're monitoring that closely. And because we know that the transmission rates are pretty high within the KCPS boundaries, we are not allowing for spectators to come in the game. And I think that varies from district to district. We happen to be one of the higher rates, especially when you think about our 3rd and 5th district. So those are things that I have to take into account when making the decisions that we've made.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think for the most part, our families have communicated with us really well in terms of our decisions. They knew that there were challenges with what the health department was kind of sharing with us. And so I think for the most part, they were very supportive with that, knowing that, I mean, our kids want to be in school. So that's the reality. I mean, I've got one in my home. He wants to be in school. So we all want the same thing. The whole point is that we want the transmissions and everything to go to a point to where we can get everybody back in school. I think we've been able to communicate pretty well with our families and keeping them updated about where we are. And for the most part, like I said, I think that's been a pretty good understanding. But I think most of our families still want to be in school. We do have the online off the rest of the semester version. And so that has been a higher percentage than maybe what we thought would take advantage of that initially. But I can tell you the rest of our kids want to be in school and our families want them to have that opportunity. So it's up to us to make sure that we're communicating that they're going to be safe when they're here. We're also allowing athletics to go on right now as well and continue to monitor that and just making sure that our kids are safe when they send them to us. But the information that we've been sending out and the feedback that we've been receiving, they're pretty supportive of our plan thus far. But I know that may change the longer that this goes on if we're not able to bring students back for one reason or another as the semester continues.
I would say in center, I've heard from multiple stakeholders. Overall, the feedback has been positive. Of course, we also needed to pivot. We were planning to start in a hybrid model, but based on the data, as Dr. Bedell referenced, we needed to change, and we started virtually August 26th. So today, we were able to offer small learning groups for a total of maybe 230 to 240 students spread out over 7 buildings. But our parents, our staff, board members, and community have been very positive. And one of the things that we continue to troubleshoot and explore ways that we can enhance is just technology issues and providing hotspots for all of our families who need them, and making sure that our teachers have access to resources that they need to deliver high quality instruction. And so we continue to look at professional development options for students. I'm a firm believer in increased adult learning yields increased student learning. And so we continue to look at ways to continue to develop training and offerings for our staff in the area of technology to make sure that they have all that they need. But for the most part, just like our colleagues, our parents, our stakeholders understand that we are making the best decisions that we can based on the information that we have.
I would agree with Yolanda on that too. I think we worked so hard to make these good decisions. And I think one of the most challenging parts, our families have been very supportive. They provided lots of feedback, and they continue to do that because there's other ways that we can improve, and we appreciate that. But I think also just understanding that schools have always been the most consistent thing in our lives for families. And now we're probably the most inconsistent thing. And I think that's causing so much stress for our families and for our community, frankly. We have been the reason at this time of the year, kids are supposed to be back in school, we're supposed to be doing all these things, and parents have routines, and they schedule around us. And we're watching employers having to schedule around us for childcare needs, to support our learning at home for our students. And so I just think that's a big part of that. And so for us, the feedback, it has been, please educate our students, but also please keep them safe. And to do that and to meet those needs and not knowing what the next question is. I think Dr. Kinder said sometimes the question changes every day. Frankly, sometimes it changes every hour. And I think that's probably been the biggest challenge is in trying to communicate with our families, all of the changes that keep happening. We probably have all of us on all of our websites. I bet we can look at them. I bet we have pages and pages, 40 to 50 pages of guidelines and documents and reopening plans, trying to answer absolutely every question that's out there. And it's kind of funny because once you answer one question, you actually need to answer 10 more. And so I think those are just some of the challenges that we've had with this is just continuing. I think it's going to continue throughout. I totally agree with Dr. Kinder that our year's just going to look different. And we don't know what it's going to look like. And I do think that we will have online options. Yes, we want to get our students back, but we want to do it in the safest manner possible too.
We were pretty much the same in Blue Springs. We had community groups together starting back in June. We had 6 different task forces that worked all the way from logistics to safety, and got a lot of feedback from parents and from staff. When we started today, we thought we would probably have somewhere around 75% of our parents would select an on-site option and then 25% online. And today, at the end of the day, it reported to me that we ended up with about 82% of our parents selecting the on-site option with their students. And so then about 18% are online. And our community has been very supportive of that. Our staff has been in a situation where I think it's taken a little bit of time for them to come around to it. But I think today when I was out, that by and large, the staff is positive and supportive. There were some fears out there and some issues among staff. And we definitely understand that. I mean, they're the ones that they've become frontline workers today, really. And we're so proud of what they're doing. And we'll continue to monitor that as we go through because, as I said before, it'd be nice to say we could have an on-site option for 164 days of attendance we're going to have this year, but I'm kind of doubtful that we'll make the full 164 days of having an on-site option for everybody. So we'll just have to continue to see how that goes.
Good thoughts, and thank you for sharing those. We're getting a lot of feedback, a lot of comments, and I think our jobs as superintendents, as leaders, is to make sure that we're incorporating that feedback to help mold and shape our plans. So thank you all as superintendents for using that feedback to move forward throughout a year that's very, very challenging in a lot of ways. So we have a couple more questions, and we'll keep moving. But at this point, would you all have done anything different as we've approached this year?
If it was up to me and I had the ability to take a deeper look at the calendar and had more time to engage people, I probably would have looked at a different school calendar for this year, just because of the fact that a number of our kids fell behind with those fourth quarter standards that they lost out on at the end of the year. And I really, truly believe that I would like to move forward with engaging this community on looking at just a different calendar. I don't agree that this mentality of you having to start school in August and end in May is the only way that you can go about running a school calendar. As I've stated earlier, there's a lot of local control that we are allotted by the state. And if we have an opportunity to look at trying to do some things differently, especially if it has not been as successful as it needs to be, then why continue on that same path? So I am interested in engaging this community on doing what I would have loved to have done at the beginning of this year, looking at school start times based on research, and then also taking a look at the calendar and trying to find a calendar that will be more supportive to the student population that we're serving here in this school district.
That's a tough question to maybe answer. I think hindsight is always 2020. I think there's always things that we would maybe do differently. I'm really proud of the work that we did. I think we were going into this year with no preconceived notions, fully coming at it from multiple angles, saying we don't know what's going to happen. So whatever our plan is going to be, we need to be able to, I've heard pivot, I've heard adjust. I mean, whatever the case may be, we knew that we were going to have multiple things that we needed to adjust to. So I still think that there would be absolutely things that maybe we would do differently if we had known. But I'm still really proud of what we did, because I think all of us were looking at this as whatever, we don't know what's going to happen, and this is clearly not going away, so we need to be prepared for anything. So I think there were some interesting conversations that we all had with our groups and our teams, but also with our community of that we're not really sure, and it's okay to not be having all the answers right now, but we just need to communicate. Even if we're just communicating, we didn't have all the answers. So I'm proud of what we did, but I guarantee there'd be little things that we would have changed and done a little bit differently. Like Mark said, setting up from the very beginning, maybe a September 8th start date, already preloading some things. So maybe we didn't have to do that quite so late in the timeline. But I think there's any number of little things, but I'm still really proud of what we did and think that we did absolutely everything that we could do to be at day one and to be as successful as we have leading up to here. And then now any number of changes that we'll need to do moving forward to make sure that we continue to be successful.
I would agree. It is a loaded question, but definitely open for me, open for reflection. And the first thing that came to mind would have been, well, first let me start with, for me, starting in a new system. I'm really pleased about joining a group of administrators, a group of building leaders that have really taken the time to onboard me into the system and have been really supportive of the work and my philosophy around leadership and collaboration, and we gelled well, all in the best interest of children and families and keeping us staff safe as well. But one of the things first thing that comes to my mind is providing additional training for staff around technology resources and making sure that staff had adequate training leading up to and any classes that we could have offered for parents and students to access devices and get online and have that opportunity. Luckily, there were several students that participated in summer school and had that opportunity. Lots of teachers who taught summer school, and so they had the training there. But that's one thing that I would really explore on a deeper level, is being able to provide more professional development and training for staff around technology, seeing that we definitely had to change our plan for the start of the year and go full virtual beginning August 26th.
I would agree with Candy. I think it's difficult on that question to ask what you would do differently, because we're also tired of the uncharted waters, or no one's ever been through this, or all of those phrases we've had. We're also always tired of saying you're on mute when you're on Zoom too. So that's a part of it. But I really just, it's just been such a learning opportunity for us. So every time that we had that chance to look back and say, so what did we do when we brought back our students that were coming back for childcare or early childhood? What did we learn? What did we learn when we were doing summer school face-to-face with our elementary kids? What did we learn so that we could be better going forward? And so I think those are the key pieces for me. I'm not sure there's anything that I could name that I would do differently, because darn it just kept changing. It kept changing absolutely almost daily. And sometimes within the hours, we get a new order or a new update or a new directive or a new guidance. And so I would go back and just say, I just appreciate my colleagues that are on this line, and then my other colleagues throughout the metro area. Man, they have been superstars. And so just their ability to talk and ask and answer questions, and sometimes just vent of the frustration, I think has been huge in order to help all of us do the very best that we can for our students and our staff.
You know, I think if we'd had a chance to take a look earlier, we probably would have got our daycare started a couple of weeks earlier than we did. We waited until June 15th for that. We had a lot of parents who really needed that. We were concerned, we were fearful, but looking back on it, I think that would have been something that we probably should have done, starting that June 1st instead of waiting until June 15th. And then the other thing I think that we've learned through this is don't ever overestimate the power of communication. I think that we needed to do, we should have done more when it came to communication to try to alleviate some of the emotional health issues out there, not only among our community, but among our staff, and communicated more. I mean, we were communicating what I thought was fine at the time, which was about once a week, but I think we started doing more communication multiple times during the week. It seemed like it helped things get better for everybody. And so I think if I had to look back on one thing in particular, never overestimate that power of communication. I really think it is key.
Yes, communication is key, and as superintendents, you understand the power of communication and the power of comfort in communication. Thank you for sharing that piece. I will have a question for you, and then Dr. Bedell might have some final questions, but I want you to think about one of your mentors. Think about someone that you look to as a mentor, that you gain wisdom from, and I want you to channel that mentor. I want you to tell us in your words and in your voice what your mentor or what you would be saying to your communities right now as a leader. Think about your mentor and what that mentor through you would be saying right now to your communities.
I'll say the number one thing is that we keep our focus on our kids. That's what are the kids' needs first, and making sure that that continues to be our number one priority. It doesn't always line up with what's best for the adults. Many times it does, and we hope that it lines up with adults and the community, but the number one focus has to continue to be on our kids. And the second thing would be something that you just mentioned and several others have mentioned in terms of communication, that you cannot over communicate, especially in times of crisis or in other unknown and uncertain times. So to make sure that you continue to communicate as much as possible. And I think that's something that I always continue to take to heart. I kind of have almost this internal clock that I know when something's going wrong, why haven't we communicated out, and that we need to communicate something out, and when does this need to happen, and making sure that we're putting as much information out there as possible. Sometimes just to let people know that, hey, we know that there's a problem, we're working on it, we'll address it. Sometimes just those things so that people understand that we're aware of those problems, and then to go back and say, hey, we know we had this problem today. It's going to be better tomorrow. This is what happened, and this is what we're doing about it. So I try to always keep those two things in my mind every day that I do this job, and that I'll continue to be blessed to do this job, and make sure that I keep on focus on kids, and that I make sure and communicate as much as possible.
I think my mentors would also, just like Dr. Rodriguez just shared, is students at the center, and making sure that the plan that we release aligns with our professional and personal core, that you can defend, you can explain, and you can justify why decisions have been made, but making sure that students are at the center of the priority. And then being able to explain the why, and making sure that all staff and stakeholders understand the why behind the choice. And so when people understand the why, they're more inept to be able to support, because then they have all the answers and they're not guessing. And so that's what my mentors, that's the message that I'm thinking right now that would come from my mentors.
Make sure you take care of your people, whether it's your students, your staff, your families, your communities. Take care of your people. And the other piece for me is, while we're in the middle of such uncertain times, probably the most important thing to provide is clarity on what we do know. What do we know today, and what can we share? And I think that clarity really helps create trust and belief, and also allow for that grace that we have. And so I just strongly believe that if our families really know that our heart is for them, and it is, there's not a person sitting on this call today that I'm looking at that doesn't have that heart for their families, their students, and their staff members. And we truly do care for them and want the very best and want to keep them safe. But I think as you go to that communication piece, in a time of uncertainty, when you can communicate clearly and what we do know, I just think that's going to be critically important to us.
You know, I guess I was trained in a little bit of a different time frame than some of you were. My mentors, and I had deep respect for them, weren't probably the touchy-feely, emotional health type people that we have to be today. But I think one thing that they did teach me that I think has served me well the last 5 months in particular is one of my mentors used to say all the time, don't let them see you sweat. And I think basically show compassion for people, be a calming influence on people. Because if they think you're upset or you're feeling down or you're not handling the situation well, it magnifies the feelings that they have. And so I know my mentors in the past would say that if you can have that outward calm, that outward air of feelings of not necessarily invincibility, but that things are going to be okay, and try to share that with people and show people that, I think it goes a long way to helping people as they try to go through a very trying time in everyone's life, because this has affected everybody. This isn't just, first responders, or this isn't people who got laid off from work. This is everybody.
And my mentor would say operate with a high sense of humility, but also maintain a professional will to do right by those that you serve. The other thing that my mentor would convey is that we have to operate with a level of empathy, understanding that not everybody that we serve are in situations where they're able to fully meet the needs of their students when they have to work multiple jobs to make ends meet. So as a leader, how do you apply that lens to make sure that whatever decision you're going to make, that those who may often be least represented, that your decisions don't further despair them and further create inequities that are inherently built into the system. So my job right now is to make sure that I'm operating with empathy, but I'm also operating with humility and the professional will to do right by those that I serve. So Kelly, as we get ready to close out, what I would ask of each of my peers is to just offer a quick closing remark, and then I'll close it out with final comments, and then that would conclude the taping of this show. So Jeanette, Dr. Coward, do you want to start?
And remind me exactly what you want me to
Just a
respond.
quick- just-
I'm sorry. I'm listening to your response. I'm sorry.
Yeah, whatever you want to say as far as closing remarks, just to close out, summing up what you've gotten today, or closing remarks on, whatever you want to say.
Well, I just like to thank everyone. I just feel like I don't know anybody that's not worked hard through this situation. I want to thank you, Mark and Kelly, for this opportunity to share with our communities, and for them to actually get to see us as humans, and that we really do care very, very much about what is going to happen, not just now, but in the future for our schools and our students as we move forward. So I'd just like to thank them for that. I'd like to thank them for the grace that they have shown for us also, and the compassion, and also just that understanding too, that this is temporary. We will find a vaccine. We will find an answer for this, and we will be able to move back to normal at some point in time. And so again, as we move ahead, just thank you so much for allowing us these opportunities to do the very best we can, but also to provide the very best we can for your children. Just thank you.
Yeah, I just say these are extremely stressful times, but I would just continue to say, these are jobs that we take very seriously. We think about these things 24/7. There's not many opportunities and many weekends and many days away that we are not living these jobs, because we know that we have kids and families that are depending on us. So I take the 4,200 kids that I have in my district very seriously, and I want to make sure that we're providing the best possible education for them 24/7. And I want to make sure that no matter what's happening, we are responding, and that we're communicating, and that we are providing a high level of excellence for them. So thanks, Dr. Bedell, for putting this together, and for Kelly, for the district doing this. We take it very seriously. We communicate with each other, and we're trying to make sure that we follow through with what's happening in an unknown environment, to do the very best we can and provide that same high level of experience. So we will get through this. We will get on the other side of this, and we will be better because of it. But the grace in between now and then certainly will be given on both sides. We will make mistakes, but we will learn from them. And again, we will get through this, and it's going to be okay.
All right. Well, thank you. My closing remarks would be, I appreciate being invited to this conversation, being able to share with all of our stakeholders the many different issues and just our thought process around decisions that have been made. I appreciate the support from each of you as colleagues, the support from the board and the community, as well as our staff. It's been an all-in, and this is a community issue that we're dealing with. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share with each of you and learn from you, as well as share with our community stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell and Kelly, for hosting this. We really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure of mine to be here tonight. I know that my other colleagues feel the same way. Again, I go back to just grace and communication. I mean, it's something I think is going to serve us well through this. You know, I come home every night, think about things I could have handled better during the day. And when it comes down to it, most of it revolves around communication or being more kind to people. And that's something I try to work on each and every day. And I think that's probably the thing that's going to serve all of us as we move forward. So grace and communication are two of the key things I'm going to think about every day as we move forward here.
All right. Well, thank you. And I want to thank Dr. Coward, Dr. Rodriguez, Dr. Cargile, Dr. Kinder. You all are rock stars in my eyes. And I know that I have had an opportunity to spend a lot of individual time with all of you, just getting to know you on a personal level. And just also as thought partners. So thank you for taking out time. This is a very busy day for all of us, and for you all to take out an hour of your time to make this happen will truly be a value add to our community. I also, in closing, want to thank our board of directors. Without the funding that they provided for us to be able to do this program, none of this is possible, to be able to bring airings and programs like this to our community. I want to thank our administrators. They have done a phenomenal job of working hard to think outside the box to get the school district prepared. Our faculty and staff, both in central office and at our school level. And then most importantly, our teachers, the people who are in the trenches every single day with these students. Thank you for your care and concern and your belief, and also possessing that no matter what, we will get this done. I really appreciate the mentality and the attitude. And let's make it happen, everybody. The kids inside the Kansas City region deserve the best from us. They have the top-notch leaders right here, along with all of our other peers that have been hired to lead these respective school districts. And we are all built to make sure that we can overcome this national health pandemic. And when it's all said and done, when everybody go back and they look at the historical impact that this has had on all of our school systems, each of us will be able to say we came out on the right side of history with the decisions that we made in times of having to navigate through uncharted territory. So Kelly, thank you for putting this on, and let's get it done for these kids.
Thank you all for being here. That's a wrap on our KCPS Homeroom show featuring superintendents from around the region and around the Kansas City area. You all are noticed, you are valued, and you all are appreciated. Remember, to whom much power is given, much responsibility is expected.
Kindergarten is great at Kansas City Public Schools.
I know they have really good teachers. I know this is a great school.
They teach them stuff that I thought my kids would never be able to know at the age of 5.
Since deciding to send our kiddos to a neighborhood school, we've become even more of a part of our community.
Now is the time to enroll your future kindergartner for the new school year. Visit enrollkc.org today.
Acquire skills I'd use in real life.
I chose manual because I want to be an ER doctor, and being an EMT is my first step.
Kickstart your future today at Manual Career and Technical Center. Manual is open for all 11th and 12th grade students in both Kansas and Missouri. Learn more today at enrollkc.org/manual or call 816-418-5200.
I love Southeast because of the culture, the band program, and restorative justice.
I love Southeast because of the academics, sports, and students.
I love Southeast because of the people, the energy, and the advanced classes. It's not a like. I love Southeast because the students here at Southeast are full of potential and they believe in achieving anything. We are Southeast. Southeast. We stand shoulder to shoulder.
Join the Southeast family. Enroll today.
The desire to create lives within each of us. From Grammy-winning producers and musicians, to NBA stars, to Navy admirals and Medal of Honor recipients, to internationally renowned artists, and beloved local muralists, Paseo graduates have been creating their own success, their own history, their own legacy since 1920s.
I chose manual because it's challenging and fun, and it can help me with college.
I chose manual because I wanted to get a jump start in my career with culinary arts.
I chose manual to acquire skills I'd use in real life.
I chose manual because I want to be an ER doctor, and being an EMT is my first step.
Kickstart your future today at Manual Career and Technical Center. Manual is open for all 11th and 12th grade students in both Kansas and Missouri. Learn more today at enrollkc.org/manual or call 816-418-5200.